When I first learned about this model, it changed everything about what I knew about family business and how to run the business effectively. And now when I share this model with other families, their minds are equally blown. So what I want to talk about today is the 3 circles model for family business and how it can help you to better look at how your family business is structured and how to operate the business so that it supports ownership and the family effectively, and how you can free yourself from some of the emotional turmoil that erupts when all these circles overlap. So by the end of this video, you're going to understand why family businesses are often harder to run than traditional businesses. You'll understand this model and what each of these circles represent, what happens when these circles overlap too much, and most importantly, some practical tools to help you strengthen each of these circles so that you can run a better business and you can have a stronger family and stronger ownership. The 3 circles model was developed by 2 Harvard professors in 1978 named Renado, Tagiuri, and John Davis. And within the model that they created, there's really 3 circles that represent any family business. There's the family circle, the business circle, and the ownership circle. And the big idea here is that many members of a family business may sit in multiple ones of these circles. And we run into challenges within family businesses because we're not often intentional about which circle we're sitting in. And I'll explain more about that in a moment. Digging deeper into what each of these circles represents, when we look at the family circle, it represents our relationships with other family members, the emotions around that, the family history, and what it really means to belong to a family unit. Now, the family circle runs a lot on emotion, and that can be very powerful, but it can also be very dangerous when it overlaps with things like business and ownership. Our sense of belonging within a family is very, very strong. And when we overlap that a lot with something like our identity in a business, it can really cause a lot of challenge. And then moving over to the ownership circle, this is where we talk a lot about rights and responsibilities and the equity within the business. It's really representative of owning a particular part or whole of the business. And a lot of times in any business, when the ownership circle overlaps with the business circle and you have owners operating in the business, well, you do often have a lot of challenge there, because how are you going to hold an owner accountable to a role that they have in the business? Add to that the overlap with family, and you cause even more complexity and challenge. Then, of course, the 3rd circle is the business circle, and this is the operation of the business, how the business operates, the performance that's expected, the culture and accountability, and the roles and responsibilities that exist within the business. Now, in a traditional business, of course, the business exists to support the owners and, of course, the employees in the business. But within a family business, we have this additional circle where the business also supports the family. And so you have that additional level of complexity that exists here. When these circles overlap too much and you just have one circle that represents family, business, and ownership, and it's all muddied, well, what happens there is that's where chaos starts to exist. That's where we start to enmesh and entrench family relationships and emotion in the business, and ownership relations in the family and the business, and everything gets muddied. And the truth is that when everything is muddied and you have many different personalities and employees and family members all in that dynamic, well, that's when businesses can start to fail because of the relationships, not because of the performance of the business. This is a lot of the reason why that grueling statistic for family business, that 90% of family businesses won't make it to the beyond the 3rd generation, it's why that happens a lot of times. So the key here to avoid this is to make sure that we're keeping these circles separate, especially when we're considering the operation of the business, because that business is supporting the ownership and the family, that we're operating that business like a business, serving this business toward the greater good first. And what that means is that if owners are a part of the business or family is a part of that business and they sit in seats in the business, that they are employees when they're sitting in this business. When you look at this model, you can tell in this overlap that there are going to be people in the organization that are going to be family members, they're going to be employees, and they're going to be owners. They might be sitting in this circle here where they represent all 3. Some might just be family members and owners. They might not be working in the business necessarily. Some might be owners who aren't family members, but they're still working in the business. Some might be working in the business and family, but not owners, so they might be sitting there. So there's many ways people can be represented on these three circles. Sometimes there may be owners that aren't sitting in the business or family. Sometimes there's people, just employees that aren't family or owners. And sometimes there's just family that don't sit in either the business or the owner's circle. Now, the key here is to be crystal clear on where you are in any given situation. When you're in the business, you are an employee and you're accountable to every part of that business and how you operate towards the greater good. This is where business systems like EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, come into play, because they provide that system and that structure of accountability so that you could treat your business like a business. When the business is strong, it can support the family and the owners better. When the business is struggling and it's muddied by family and owners, it's creating a dysfunctional dynamic that weakens all three of these circles. So to summarize, when you're in the business, look for business systems or structure that can help you to build accountability in the organization. When you're in the business, you are in the business as an employee in the function that you're in with the right structure. EOS can be a great tool for that business side. On the family side, this is where you want to just be a family member who loves one another, who builds relationships with one another. And some ways to support this and strengthen this family structure is with things like a family constitution or family assemblies where you can come together and build connection, air grievances, and start to solve the real issues related to the family in particular. This becomes especially important as you generationally go down the line, second, third, fourth generation, when you have a broader family. Now, some of you may cringe when you think of the idea of coming together with family retreats or a family constitution or that kind of connection. But if you're going to be in business with your family and you're going to be in partners with your family, it's important that you create that structure, because if you're not, you are dooming future generations to disconnection and dysfunction. Within this family circle, when you're thinking of things like a family constitution or retreats or an assembly, think of things like education for the family, financial education, or business education, teaching about that history, teaching about the legacy, so that you can build alignment around the family and getting them prepared to be aligned in the business as well. Now, the ownership circle is all about the structure of the on the business stuff, like the governance structure, boards of directors, buy-sell agreements, all of that important stuff that is going to keep you legally protected as you continue to go through the generations. Do you need a board of directors? Do you need a board of advisors? Do you need some kind of decision criteria perfectly framed out? Do you have buy-sell agreements and bylaws in place that can protect you legally should something arise? So when you put those structures in place, a great business system to run the business with accountability, making sure that all employees in the business are truly employees and they're accountable to the greater good of the organization. When the family is growing as a family and aligning around a common set of values and history and legacy, and when you've got the right ownership structure with the right kind of agreements, bylaws, and governance structure, well, then you're starting to strengthen these three circles. And then they start to flow through one another in all directions so that you're growing each one of these effectively. Because when you can operate in these circles with integrity, the family gets stronger, the business gets stronger, and of course, your ownership gets stronger, and you start to generate generational wealth and value over time. The alternative is to ignore this at your peril. If you're not focused on these things, what you're living in is some kind of artificial harmony, and that's where chaos starts to ensue. So if you're choosing to build a family legacy with a family business, make sure to strengthen each one of these three circles. Keep them intentionally separate so that you can run a better business, have a healthier family, and generate generational wealth. If you learned something today with this model or it stood out to you, share it with someone you know who might benefit from this as well. If you need help strengthening your business and a family business, I'm here to help.